All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Living in Alignment podcast. And I am super excited for this conversation today. I am joined today by the lovely and amazing Rae Leonard. And Rae Leonard all right, guys, you ready for this? Rae Leonard is an author, intuitive guide, and coach. Her latest book is titled High Sobriety, A Trip Out of the Bottle into Your Intuition. Oh my God, I love this so much. You guys know, I think a lot of you probably know that I've been sober for 26 years. So this is a conversation near and dear to my heart. As a transformationalist, Rae draws on her expertise in Jiva Mukti Yoga, vortex healing, performing arts, conscious language, and master cleansing to help people who are ready for post-traumatic growth. I'm ready for post-traumatic growth. She she assists in dissipating subconscious triggers to allow people to become the frequency of their designs. One of her guiding principles is, and this is a quote by Albert Einstein, match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. This is not philosophy, it is physics. Albert Einstein. Rae grew up a latchkey kid in New York's East Village during the 70s. Tiring of the downtown performance scene, she became a wife, mother, and yoga teacher in the Hudson Valley who used the law of attraction to get her hands on bags of heroin in her sleepy mountain town, her strategy for escaping the grind of nuclear family life. Her booze brain led her back into the entertainment industry where she honed roles playing crack whores, such as in the film Detachment, where she plays Adrienne Brody's tormented, addicted mother in flashbacks. During this time on militaristic film sets, she realized she enjoyed using her intuition to help crew members through their issues more than she liked film acting. She had an insight about her drinking problem. Rock bottom is just when you quit digging. Yes, I love that. It ignited a transformation Rae wanted to share. She started coaching people, combining her innate gifts with a frequency device called Healy that helped her make quantum leaps, finally dropping the lure of drugs and alcohol in her own life. Healy technology is an effortless way to communicate to the information field, to change one's deep-rooted patterns and quickly transform your life. Rae is a rover who travels the eastern seaboard in her Sprinter van, following the mild weather. She could possibly be seen nodding off in her hammock in the Hudson Valley or deciphering notes from napkins outside Stone Age Kitchen in Chestertown. Very often, she's near the fountain of Forsyth Park in Savannah, waiting for the owls to land and quench their thirst at dusk. What a great bio. Oh my God, I have like chills from your bio. It's so good. It's like, there's so much juice in there.
Thank
Anyway,
you.
welcome to Living in Alignment, Rae. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh,
And
it is my pleasure to be here with you, Amy.
yeah, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this conversation. And so before we dive into anything else, I would love for you to just, other than everything that I just shared about you, if there's anything else you'd like to say to just like let people know a little bit more about who you are and how you got here.
Sure. Well, growing up, my childhood was complicated, and I navigated using my Clair senses or innate psychic powers that we all have. They're called extra sensory perceptions, but they are not extra. We all have them. They got buried, peer pressure, drug and alcohol numbed me down, and I moved away from my intuition and things that really helped me survive when I was a kid. And I didn't really get back to them until I got sober. And then they all came back flooding very quickly. And I realized, wow, I really want to share this. with people because I think that you can move quickly from issues, from addictions, heartaches. It doesn't have to be a slow, drawn out process the way that the universe is rolling right now, that you can move quickly to wonderful ecstatic places in your life. And I did it a lot through cleansing and through frequency work, but really changed the makeup of my body and my mind quickly and was able to release things. So that's what I like is the fast track and the fast path to happiness and fulfillment. And I love to share that, my journey with people, because I feel like people could benefit from that if they like my roadmap. I want to help them out
Mm,
with my tips and tricks.
yeah. I love this. One of the things you just said that I can really relate to in my own sobriety is so before I got sober, I don't have, my past is different as far as like our actual, I wasn't in the industry, in our entertainment industry or anything like that, but I had a lot of, my mom died in a car accident when I was 18 in my car, which I couldn't deal with. So I started numbing myself. And from that point forward, a lot of other things happened in my life that were traumatic. And I never let myself feel anything. I just numbed, kept pushing everything that happened. So it was like a compound effect of all of the pain and suffering in my life being numbed and never felt. And one of the first experiences I had when I got sober was, um, well, the first couple weeks of my sobriety were really, really, really hard because it was all of a sudden like the breakup from my recent relationship, my mother's death, like all the other things started surfacing, all the things that I had never felt, all of a sudden, like they were there and I had to feel them all at once, which was really, really, really hard. It was almost like I was suicidal for a couple weeks because I just couldn't deal. And then I made it through that and I started to level out. And then I had a heartbreak. You were talking about heartaches. So I had my first experience with that, trying to get back together with the guy that I destroyed the relationship when I was drinking. And now that I was sober, he wanted to get back together and I was thrilled about that. And then he got cold feet and he got scared and he told me that he couldn't do it. And I thought I was going to die. And I did, and I wanted to like drink to numb it out because that's what I was used to doing, but I wasn't going to do that. So I allowed myself to feel it. And that was the first time that I had ever done that in the moment. And what I noticed was that I actually moved through it pretty quickly. Like it was really painful. Like I cried myself to sleep that night. The next day I got triggered a couple times throughout the day by songs that came on where I just went into like a pile of tears or whatever, but each day it got a little bit easier. And the next thing you knew, I was like, I'm okay. Like I had never experienced that before because I had always just numbed it, numbed it, numbed it. I was never okay because I never actually like felt anything fully. So I love how you were talking about being able to move quickly through. And I know that you have some other tools and things that you use to do that. But I think sobriety in general, what I've noticed is like we feel everything fully when we're sober, but it allows us, like, I think feeling it is part of what helps us move through things, isn't it?
Mm. Yes, it reminds me of a quote by Oscar Wilde: "Hearts were made to be broken."
Mm,
And I love that for so many reasons. He was such a badass anyway, and lived a crazy addicted life. But he had an insight, and you can use, no one escapes trauma in their life and the complications of life. No one escapes that. So really it's a matter of how do you recover? How quickly do you recover? Or do you get stuck in victimhood and that becomes the story of your life, right? Or you transform it, as you were talking about, which happened when you became sober. What what prompted you? Did you hit rock bottom? What prompted you to get sober?
Yeah, I hit rock bottom. Like, I mean, I could tell you the details if you want, but it was, I would have died if I didn't get sober. Let's just say that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
But that being said, I would have died until like my father was trying to help me, my brother was trying to help me. For years, people saw what was happening and wanted to help me, and I just wasn't hearing it. I wasn't ready. I didn't want to be helped. It was actually an acquaintance of mine that said something to me when he saw me at my rock bottom. He said something to me that actually got through to me, and that was the switch that flipped for me. And had he not done that, I probably would have died. So it wasn't just me deciding, okay, I'm ready. It was somebody finally like helped me to see something about myself that I wasn't seeing or that I wasn't hearing from my family and friends.
So a message is don't give up on people. There's still hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you probably have to emotionally detach, but you can still put lifelines out there for people.
Well, what was funny too is like I said, he was an acquaintance. He was a guy that I worked with. I didn't know him that well. He just saw me deteriorating, and his words changed my life, and he didn't even know it. Like I left that day and I went and got sober, and I left town. I quit my job, you know what I mean? Like he had no idea. And then I saw him years later and I was just like, thank you. You know, you saved my life. He's like, what? He didn't even know that he had made a difference until I told him. You know what I mean? So another message is you never know how you might change somebody's life in passing by the words that you say. You know what I mean? Like, so we never know how
That
much our words could
that
change.
reminds me of being a child, and I feel like I had a lot of people who just touched me for moments, a librarian or a
Yeah.
shopkeeper, or there were just glimpses at times that people saw me and gave me a gift of kind words or a lollipop or something that helped me keep going when I was a kid. And I love to do that now because I know how much that meant to me. So when I see children now, I try to give them all a little extra something, or, oh, I really know how you're feeling right now, or I really know how that must feel. And you have so much grace and beauty, and I'm so excited for the person that you're going to become. I always like just, like
Mhm.
just shower them with little extra because I know how much that meant to me.
Mhm.
And that can make such a difference in someone's life, if they have straws that they're grasping at, that they can,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm getting emotional just thinking about that because like you said, librarians, like I'm guessing had a librarian that said something to you that stuck with you, or you remember something, and that only happens because that person did exactly what you're talking about. And it's obviously stuck with you into your adulthood. So yeah, it's amazing. And I have the same thing. Like I can think of certain people from my childhood who I remember because of because of things that they've said or whatever. So yeah, we just never know. We never know whose life we're gonna touch or mold along the way and or save in the event of what this guy said to me. And I mean, I remember his words verbatim, like they stuck with me and they've kept me sober all these years.
would you share them?
Oh yeah. So he looked at me and so I was a bartender for 15 years and I was bartending when I decided to get sober. And I had moved out of town I was living in Boulder, Colorado and bartending at the bar where he also worked in the kitchen. Anyway, I moved to Telluride, Colorado, which is where I hit my rock bottom destroyed my relationship there, everything. I came back to Boulder and I got my job back at the same bar, and he was working there, and I looked horrible. I mean, I know I looked horrible because I had been doing a ton of drugs and Telluride. Like I hadn't been like I was like pulling all-nighters for days on end with crystal meth and all kinds of whatever. And I came back and I probably just looked haggard. And so I got my job back at the bar, but I had to work the day shift because I had given up my shifts, my night shifts. And so I got off and it was like 5 o'clock or whatever. And I got my shift beer and I sat at the bar with my beer, and I had a beer and a shot in front of me. I hadn't touched it yet. And he walked up to me and he looked at me and he said, "Amy, you're smart and nobody would ever know it. And you're beautiful and nobody would ever know it. And if you don't stop drinking, you're going to die." And he walked away. And I left the beer and the shot on the bar. And I walked outside to the payphone and I called my dad, who had been trying to help me for years. And I said, "I'm ready to get sober. Can you help me?" And he said, "Yes." And that was it.
Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the smart. It's just my intuition. It's like, oh, wait, I'm really smart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that one first, like you put that one first.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
really smart. You're not being so smart.
But I mean, it takes bravery to say that to somebody. Especially because we weren't like close friends. I mean, I knew him because I had worked at that bar for 5 years, but I was like the wild, crazy bartender who was like dancing on the bar while I was working because I was drinking while I was working. But they always had me on Friday nights and Saturday nights on the busy nights because me and my other friend who like put the two of us behind the bar and we drew a crowd. But I was
Because you're
drinking,
gorgeous.
I was crazy. Like I was partying while I was working, and it was just fun, it was just the whole bar was just a party, when I was there. So he saw me living that life for 5 years. But then I guess when I left and came back, I had been like, just, yeah, there was
You
nothing fun about me
deteriorated.
at that point. I was just like barely holding on.
And
So.
then the people, then your support system, then your dad was right there for you and your family was there for you, and
Mm-hmm.
more
Yeah.
more luck, more
Mhm.
more good fortune that some people don't have.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I don't know where you want to take this from here. One of the things that I thought I might ask you was that, I know we spoke just briefly before we started recording, and I had asked you if you had used meetings to get and stay sober, and you told me that you hadn't, which haven't either. So, we have that in common, and I don't even know how common that is with people that are sober, but I would love to hear more about like that part of your journey, or I mean, I think it might be similar for both of us. Um I know I shared also, I'll just say this. I shared, for anybody listening, I shared with Rae ahead of time that the reason that I went to meetings in the beginning because I felt like I needed to be around people that understood me. And I had gone to like this therapist that was a PhD. My dad paid for me to go to him because he was supposed to be the best drug and alcohol therapist in Colorado, but he was a PhD, he'd read every book, but he was not an addict and he did not understand me. And I was like, I need to be around addicts that that survived, that actually got to the other side of this and know that it's possible. And so I started going to meetings. And what I didn't like about the meetings right away and why I stopped going was that I had to show up there and I had to say, "I'm Amy, I'm an alcoholic." Every time I spoke, I had to say that. And everyone would say, "Hi, Amy." And anytime anybody spoke, they had to address themselves like that. Or if you go to an NA meeting, it's, "I'm Amy, I'm an addict," or whatever. And so I was just like, but that's not who I am anymore. Like, it's not who I want to be. Like, I was really clear, like, I want to start my life over right now. I want to go down this like spiritual path. I want to evolve as a human. And like, I felt like sitting in a room referring to myself as an alcoholic was going to keep me like limited in some way. And
Yes.
also I feel like it's like creating an identity for myself that I don't even want. Like, and I like a badge, like here's my identity badge. Hi, I'm Amy. I'm an alcoholic. You know what I mean? And that did not, and I'm not putting down the program, any of the programs. Like I know these programs are incredible. They help a lot of people. So I don't want to sound like I'm anti anything. Just for me, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And
Yes.
even my sponsor, who had been sober for 20 years, was still addressing himself that way. And then the other piece of it for me that I didn't like was if I missed a meeting, he would get like mad at me. Like, where were you? And da 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 da. And I was just like, I don't want to have to come to something every day, like,
Right.
you know
Is
what I
this
mean? And then
this
be
a
reprimanded if I'm
religion
not here. Like, it almost feels like another addiction or something. Like, and so
or religion or a cult?
yeah, it
Didn't
just,
work for
yeah.
you.
And I think sometimes people, if they're depending on the meetings to get sober and stay sober, they can't understand that somebody can do it without the meetings. And I totally get that. Um, but for me, I felt like the meetings were hindering me more than anything. And I just wanted to like go like backpacking in New Zealand and do all this stuff to find myself. Like that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to sit in a room and talk about being drunk anymore.
Yes.
So anyway, if you want to speak to that in whatever, whatever came up for you around that as far as your own sobriety and why you didn't do the meeting path or
Well, I had been to different types of meetings before, full on drug and alcohol addiction got a hold of me. I always drank and used drugs and, was a bartender and super cool in the downtown New York scene. And I always prided myself on, oh, I don't have an addictive personality. Look at me. I can do it all. And I can perform and I can go to yoga and, I just don't have an addictive personality. Except then I went to Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, spent a little time there. I went to Overeaters Anonymous because food was actually my first addiction and what I thought was had the strongest hold on me. And I kind of used drug and alcohol to get away from food. I'd wake up with a hangover and be like, well, at least I didn't hit the Ben and Jerry's last night. So I so I knew what the meetings were about, and I definitely didn't like the I ams. I think I ams are very, very powerful. I'm really into conscious language, and I am is stepping into the beingness of something.
mm-hmm.
Whatever you say, I am, and after that is what you are. So be careful with the I am tired, I am sick, cancel, delete, delete on all these. I am health, I am wealth, and I do a lot of turnarounds. If I find myself one of these I ams dribbles out of my mouth, I turn it right around. I'm an energy worker. I'm an energy adjuster. That's my specialty is I go in and give people little energetic adjustments that change their day and get them rolling on a good path. So instinctively I didn't like the I ams. I also had a lot of skills. I wasn't very young when I got addicted. I was a user for many, many years, maybe 30 or 40, before into my 40s, the alcohol caught up with me and I was drinking wine every night, making dinner for my family, and then wanting it earlier and earlier in the day, and looking at my watch. Is it 5 o'clock yet? Because I need some wine.
5 o'clock somewhere.
So I noticed that I was becoming addicted, and I think that I was able to do that because I did have a Buddhist practice, I did have a yoga practice, I had tools that I think if you are younger and you become addicted when you're 17 and you gotta get sober, you're 25, you you might not have a lot of tools that these programs give you. And I felt that I had those, and I always was kind of running dual rackets. I'm also a health nut. So I didn't like being in moldy, closed up places and the donuts and, unhealthy things. I thought that everyone should like go to a spa for a month. And that would be to start with, when they want to,
Mm.
when they quit doing really, really negative things, and a big long cleanse. So I think that's why it didn't really work for me, because I had tools. So I certainly wouldn't want to say anything negative or discourage people. If those are the tools that you have available to you and you don't feel like you have a head start on your sobriety, I also could feel the difference when the alcohol started to get a hold of me, that I felt the negative entities and the spirits
Mm.
clutching onto me.
Mm.
And I felt that I wouldn't be successful quitting if I was to alert them to that, saying, I'm quitting. I felt that they would have kind of, that they would have gotten their claws or clutches into me
Mm.
further. I could actually feel them
Mm.
around me and not wanting to lose that energy. So I started listening to sober podcasts while I drank. I started chanting in front of my altar while I drank, so that all they would see was, oh, she's still out there. She's still drinking. Um, but I was gathering strength and I was gathering tools so that my final hangover, it wasn't really eventful. It wasn't really rock, rock, rock bottom. I just said, now. I'm doing it now, because they're not even aware. They're not even alerted. And I felt like I was able to escape that way.
Is that what you mean by sneaking up on the booze?
That's what I mean. It was a tactic for me.
Wow. So do you think, you know how like alcohol is often referred to as spirits? Do you think that's why?
I do.
I've never even thought about that before.
They call it spirits for a reason. And I think that blacking out, which I did once before I was even really full on addiction, uh, blacking out, binging and blacking out was just part of the course for me. It happened maybe once a month, maybe once every other month. I went too far and I didn't remember anything. And I think that blacking out is your spirit, your good soul leaving your body because it's getting so polluted.
Mm.
And the negative spirits come in, take over your body, take it for a joyride. And that's when all the low vibrational activities that you can engage in. One can engage in, I engaged in low level sexual encounters, um, regretting things that I said, losing things, not taking care of myself. That's because the spirits have come in and taken over for a time.
Mm. That's really interesting because I blacked out at the end. I blacked out every time I drank. And I didn't even occur to be drunk. Like it was after I would have like one drink and I'd be walking down the street looking like totally sober. But the next day somebody would say something to me like, "Where were you this morning?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" "You said we were going to go on a hike. I saw you yesterday afternoon." And I was like I just wouldn't remember anything even though I wasn't drunk. Like I would black out right away at the end. And that's one of the reasons why I was like, this has got to stop. Like I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm not even running my life. Like somebody else is running my life. But what was
Uh,
weird was I wasn't like passed out on in the gutter, you know. I was just like walking around totally fully functioning. And like so with you talking about saying how you like my good spirit had like left my body, like and then I come back into my body and I don't remember any of that. So that's really
huh?
interesting.
And they were hanging close because they knew that you were in the habit of drinking. So they're close by and ready to grab on, and it takes less and less alcohol for that to happen. The same thing happened to me. I started blacking out faster and faster. One or
Mm,
two, same exact thing happened. I felt like they were hanging and just waiting to have fun with me.
mm. Such an interesting way to see it, for sure. Because I never understood that. I was like, what is going on? Like, I'm not even drunk and I can't remember anything the next day. So,
It's really helpful too, because it helped me alleviate a lot of guilt and shame, because I got to say, "Wow, yeah, that's not even me. That
mhm,
wasn't even me," and forgive myself for getting to that point where I allowed that to happen to me, but it wasn't me.
mm.
And this is kinda controversial, I'm sure. Um, I'm a controversial gal, so
Everything
that
we've
might.
talked about so far is the whole meeting thing. Like, again, I don't want to offend anybody that goes to meetings or loves meetings. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with meetings. It just wasn't my path, and I can't stress that enough. Like, I definitely am not knocking the programs at all. But it's definitely a controversial thing because people that love meetings believe in meetings, and I don't, and you
It's
don't.
their people, it's their people, it's where they like to hang, it's
Mhm.
wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. It's a way to find other people that are on the path that, to have conversations with and things. But I, like you, I was more wanting to like this is making more sense to me how it kind of happened the way it did now that you've kind of talked about the spirits and stuff, because it's like, okay, well, now that my good spirit came back into my body, my good spirit wanted to explore spirituality and nature and all of these different things that I was just not paying attention to before because I was too busy being drunk and hungover. um I also I went to a pawn shop and got a guitar and started figuring out how to play the guitar, and I just started doing stuff like that. I didn't go to meetings, but I was just I was evolving as a spirit, I feel like, in different ways. And I would love I know you talk about how you can expand Claire senses in sobriety. So can you talk a little bit about that and how?
Yeah, so your clair senses are how our intuition speaks to us through our vision, through our hearing, through our smell. That's funny that you said that, right as I picked up an intuition booster for me.
What is it?
An essential oil, some peace and
Which
calming.
Oh, nice. I love essential
And
oil.
I just picked it up at that moment, to
I love
heighten myself, to what you got? Oh, oh, oilies. Amy's
Abby.
an oily girl.
Yeah, I know. I have so many, but my diffuser's right over there. So I have Brighten, Rooted,
Rooted.
Peace,
Lovely.
Lighten, Vitalize.
They're intuition boosters. They
Hmm.
help you communicate, to develop or tune in and develop a language that you can rely on. Um, and it's a language of impulses and signals and clues that you get from source or the universe or your angels, your guides, whatever you want to call them. So they're there for you, and they're completely deadened, by our society. We're taught not to see anything other than, within a box of what we're taught to see, and certainly not to listen to impulses and signals and clues and sense. Um, so that deadens them. Peer pressure, uh, education, entrainment, as I like to call it, all deaden your clair senses. And so sobriety was a gift that way, because as soon as I became sober, boom, my clair senses I started getting signals and coincidences and synchronicities that I
Mm.
couldn't deny. And I said, wow, I have so much support here. I just need to tune in and get myself in a quiet place on a hammock and watch. I call it playing the 5D treasure hunt. So you look and listen for clues and synchronicities, and it takes you out of the 3D reality, which is what people who are substance abusers are looking to do, right? You're like,
Yeah.
take me, Callaghan, take me away. It's a great way to do it,
Mm.
to get in touch with your clair senses and get some notes from masters and teachers and passed on loved ones. And each one of us have different ones that are stronger. So what would you say? Well, obviously your clairalience, your smell, if you're into essential oils, that's a sign um that you're clairaliente. Do you have other clair senses that you think are prominent for you?
Um, I don't know. Like I feel like I'm very dialed in with my intuition, and I do sometimes crazy things that make no sense to me because I feel like I'm being guided to. And I know
Mm,
I've learned how to just um like know when that's what's happening. Like I'll hear myself go, okay, like out loud. Like I'll get this like weird thought that's seems like any other thought, but then it like when I hear myself go, okay, it's like, okay, well, that wasn't just a thought, that was like a download. That was
it's
more than
claircognizant. That's
yeah.
clear knowing.
Yeah. So that happens a lot. And then I know that if I do what I'm being guided to do, it's like going with the current of the river. And if I don't, if I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, or that sounds stupid, or why would I move across the country, or why would I sell everything I own and go to New Zealand? Like, I've done crazy things because of this. And every time I do, miracles happen. Like, everything just unfolds like perfectly. Like, and if I don't, it's like trying to swim upstream. You know,
Yeah.
if I don't listen to the
Yeah.
nudge, if
It's
so.
claircognizant. You have clear knowing, and that is an entrepreneur trait.
Hmm.
People who trust themselves, who just know, because you have to make your day. You have to know which direction to go into. You don't want someone else telling you what to do. You want to listen in and know, and because you know yourself the best. I mean, that's what's so great about this life, is that we can tune in and become the knowers of our own uniqueness, and that's how we work the best and share our gifts with everyone else, when we really know ourselves.
That's so interesting that you're bringing this up because as an entrepreneur and as somebody that teaches other entrepreneurs, I have this conversation all the time. I feel like this is one of the biggest falls I see people fall into is they don't walk their walk. They think that they have to do something based on what somebody else is doing, that somebody else is having success doing this thing, so I should do it that way. Or I should act more like this person because this person has a big following, or this person is successful in my niche or whatever. And I know for a fact, based on my own experience and just because I just know stuff, that you will never be successful doing that, not in the long term. And
Absolutely.
most people don't trust themselves enough to actually just do what they're called to do. Like they don't even let themselves hear what they're being called to do, because they think that they're supposed to be like copying other things, or even like, I mean, there's so much training, like in my industry, like online marketing or whatever, there's a ton of training out there about how to do stuff, how to do it, different ways to be successful with sales or whatever. There's a ton of different ways to do it, but that doesn't mean it's the right way for you, right? And so I feel like, I think people in general, and definitely a lot of people that want to be entrepreneurs and want to be successful, or are entrepreneurs and they're not having the success they want to see, I think are just not, either not tuned in to their guides or what they're being guided to do, or they're too much in fear to allow themselves to actually listen and just do it their way. Do what they're being told to do, not even if it's never been done that way before. I feel like people are scared. I don't know what your take is on that, but
Well, I know what helps me as a guidepost is when something comes up as a suggestion, what I should do as an entrepreneur or a new program or a new marketing plan or all these amazing things that work so well for other people and maybe they could work well for me. Do I feel excited about it? Do I really feel instantly juicy about it and I want to go further with it? Or is it just my mind going, wow, that's so cool that that works for them?
mm,
It's like a little extra excitement. And so I'll put it in my bag of tricks and I'll roll it around for a while and see if I find myself Googling more about it at night or wanting to connect with that person who was talking about it. Um, because I know that if it's just in my head, that it's not gonna work for me.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I have what I call a full body yes. Like if it's a full body yes, I know if it is or if it isn't. If it's a
Is
like
this
half
for
body
human
yes,
design? Are you talking human design? Because I'm so interested in it and I don't know that much, but is this a human design?
I don't know a lot about it either. I've interviewed a couple people about it. I still don't really understand human design very well, but no, for me, full body yes is just like when I know for certain it's a yes without any doubt. You know what I mean? Like you were kind of talking about, like you let it roll around for a while and you see if you're acting on it or whatever. Like it's kind of like that. Like if it's not like 100%, then it's not coming from that place of knowing.
Right, and so many people get so bogged down with that, right? Like chasing, "Oh, let me go in this direction because 'cause they're going," or "Let me go," and they're not
Yeah.
really understanding themselves
Yeah.
and what works for them.
Yeah. So how could you help somebody know, like, how, or teach somebody how to be more tuned in with their own intuition? Are there any tools that people can use to just um like, I
I
know how, I just know what I know about myself, but what would you suggest for somebody that wants to be able to trust the guidance but just doesn't know how to hear it?
Well, I really like the Healy frequency device. It's super powerful, and I use it on myself all the time, and I use it in when I'm coaching people, and it upgrades your own frequency.
Mm,
So you put in your goal into the app, and then you you just let the frequencies run. The frequencies will upgrade you. And I find it helps with intuition. It breaks through karmic patterns. It breaks through subconscious programming. And it's another like fast track trick that I just really, really love. Like, let's do it fast. But yeah, I really like what you're saying is the full body, yes. I mean, you have to get people in their bodies, right? So um, I do meditations with people when I work with them. Um, some people might see clues, like we're talking about, using their clear senses. I mean, you're very fortunate that you just have that full body. Yes or no, right? Um,
Tell
I
me more
like,
about the Healy thing. What is it?
oh, oh, Healy.
What is it?
It is a personal frequency device, and it has a quantum sensor in it. So there's a lot of frequency devices around. I have a bellyache, and so I'm going to run the frequencies. I'm going to decide I'm going to run the belly frequencies on me right now, to the feel better belly frequencies. Great. Well, you don't really know where the root cause of that stomach ache is coming from, but the quantum sensor in the Healy does, because it's working in the quantum field. So below our tissues and below our cells, and you keep going down further, molecules, atoms, you get to subatomic particles, and you put those under a microscope. They're 99.99999% space. And in that space is the information field, the quantum field. It's a stream of information. And when the Healy connects with that field of you, it sees you in your most exalted, in your highest state, in your souped up, tuned in, best running way, and it delivers frequencies every 10 seconds so that you upgrade, and things change really quickly.
Oh.
I have a client a month ago. She's an actress, and she's like, I want to book a pilot on a TV series. That's what I want to do. I'm like, okay. So we plugged it into the Healy. We gave her a really great intention. And 2 weeks later, she booked a pilot.
Mm,
It was just fantastic. It works really, really quickly, and we have these tools. We have these quantum tools to make quantum leaps in our life now at
hmm.
our fingertips. So it's a really exciting time to be on this planet. I
Yeah.
think we did in the past have these quantum tools at our fingertips. I think they were hidden. Um, but they're coming back, and they
And
have their day.
they weren't as widely accepted as they are today either, right?
Say that again?
They weren't as widely accepted as they are today. Like my parents were very new age in the 80s when I was in high school in New Jersey. It was not hip to be new age. My
Mm.
parents were like freaks of nature to everybody. I was like embarrassed. And now I'm like, wow, they were ahead of their time. Like they were into all the stuff that's now popular, even like meditation and chanting and all the stuff that like in the 80s in New Jersey, it was like not cool. You know what I mean? My parents were
The
doing
hair.
it. But now it's all like more widely accepted and recommended even, So I feel like I feel like that's, and like you said, hidden too. Like some of the stuff was just hidden, I guess. But I guess
Yeah.
our society is evolving, so we're
Yes.
becoming more accepting of quantum things.
It's science. Quantum epigenetics, meaning above the genes. We were taught that it's genetics, it's in your genes. There's nothing you can do about it, kid. And science is actually now backs that up. Now, whether academia and the powers that be who are in these positions want to accept these things or not is a different story, because they've built their life and their career on something else. So it's about
Right.
money. But as they slog off and the new generation comes in, it's going to be much more accepted epigenetics and working in the quantum field. So I was actually also speaking about ancient knowledge, ancient Egypt, like how they built the pyramids and things like this. They had frequency devices. They
Mm,
were That's how they were moving matter.
mm,
And that's what I mean, that it got more and more and more hidden. So
mm. So that little Healy thing that you held up, and for anyone listening that's not watching the video of this, she held up this little square device. Do you just carry it around with you? Do you leave it somewhere in your house? Like, what does it do? How does it?
there's a few things you can do with it when it's connected to. This is a Tesla coil in here. So this is working in the scalar waves. I don't know if you can see that coil in there.
Mm-hmm.
When this is plugged in, you can use it anywhere. It also comes with wristbands. So we're electric magnetic beings. Our thoughts are electric, and our emotions, our feelings are magnetic. So you can work with it with the wristbands and actually charge the battery of your cells, which is a great way to work with it. This is a super easy way. It's a resonant way. And I can have this anywhere. I can be working on clients. Friends are always calling me, "Put the Healy on me, my car just broke down. Get that Healy running on me." So I'm a Healy nutter, and I have a few of them in different places. One's on my iPad, one's on an old phone, and then I always have one available for my clients. And so you can you can either be plugged in electrically, or you can be running it magnetically on you or anyone else. Scalar waves move through time and space. It's faster than the speed of light, scalar waves, and they move through everything. And it's not very popular knowledge right now, because we could be having free energy and free things that are under control that people like to make money from.
Right.
But you can look up scalar waves, Tesla scalar waves, and they're a real electromagnetic wave that are super powerful and super quick. So,
Mm.
yeah, we'll get together and I'll run it on you, show you how it works.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Maybe a
Are
little
you
healing.
familiar with quantum entanglement? Do you know anything about quantum entanglement?
Not enough to speak of it. Do you?
Well, it's interesting because this, I don't want to call him a coach, teacher, counselor, I don't know, that I was working with through some things that are going on in my life. I started working with him like a year and a half ago, and he was telling me we were going to heal this relationship through quantum entanglement. And I'm open to anything. So I was like, okay. And he was explaining how like things that I do in my life can affect people that I'm not even in touch with. Basically,
Mm.
it's how it works. And so he was saying this, and we were doing this thing. And now all of a sudden I'm hearing it's becoming like a more like mainstream term. In just like the last year and a half, I'm starting to hear it all over the place. Like, so it's just interesting. Like it's a thing. It's a really a thing. Like when he said it to me, I was like, okay, he's kind of out there, but all right. Now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's like a scientifically proven thing that people are talking about now. That exact
Yes.
thing. And so
It's
um
moving through the space that I was talking about. We're all space.
mhm,
99.9% of us, we're thinking that our reality is solid, and it's mostly space. So information can move through and change things in the space.
mm.
that's
So when
there.
you have your little Healy thing and somebody calls you and says, my car broke down, you can use that frequency device over the phone to help the
Yeah.
person on the other end of the phone with their car.
Yes, it's intuitive. There's a bunch of ways you can use it. You could put their car in the Healy as an object. Uh,
Mm,
you could put them and their emotional state in the Healy device and work with it that way. There's, a few ways that you can do
wow.
it, but yes, you can put someone's car in, and it's happened. My friend, instead of fixing her car, she gets me to put the
Calls
car
you.
in.
That's hilarious. I love that. You're the go-to with the Healy device. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, it's really great.
So what what are some of the ways that people can work? Like tell me, I know you wrote a book. And your book is High Sobriety, a trip out of the bottle into your intuition, which I actually love that title because I feel like I've probably always been intuitive, but I didn't know it until I got sober, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
that sounds like that's kind of like the title of your book. And
yeah.
in addition to your book, like how else do you work with people?
Well, I
How can
like
people
to
work with you?
start talking to them. You could DM me is a great way to keep the conversation going, and see if you're listening to me and you really connect with me. My DM is I am Rae Leonard. This is Instagram. So IAMRaeLeonard.
I'll put
You
it
can
all of this in the show notes too for everybody.
Oh, thank you. My website, you can go take a gander at what I do over there, is rayleonard.me. And I like to see if we're a match, and see if I feel like I can give you energetic adjustments and help you. And sometimes I work with someone once and that was all they needed. Sometimes I'll work with someone for a few months, every week or every other week. It depends on what someone needs. But I love to connect with people and talk to people and see how we can all help each other.
Mhm. So besides the car example and the actress pilot example, can you give me another example or two of like some of the ways that your energetic adjustments have made a difference for people? Like what are some of the things this type of work would benefit people with?
Absolutely, number one, I would say, is emotional issues, relationships. I have a client who she was having really difficult relationship with her in-laws. And we started working. We said, "All right, let's have 4 sessions." We had 4 sessions, and on the 3rd session, she she showed up and she told me that she had booked a cruise with her in-laws. And I said, "Well, I guess this is going well, right?" And she was like, "Absolutely," like, boom, boom,
Mm,
boom, she just needed
wow.
some adjustments, and off you go, probably just like meetings. I don't love like the long term, or this is, or like psychotherapy, like you're gonna be here. I'm like, I am very good at seeing what adjustment is needed. I love to help people get Heelys. I love to help people get oils, or I'm really into molecular hydrogen water. I love to share my tools with people also. See
Mm,
what it is that will give you that yeet, just little adjustment. Oop, go
yeah,
on your way.
sounds amazing. You're like a little fairy godmother.
I'm from the fairy realm. I am absolutely from the fairy realm. Thank you for
Yeah,
seeing that
I
in
can
me.
see that really clearly. Yeah. Mm. I love it. So I'm like crying. I love it so much. Ah, well, I know we're getting to the time here, but I want to know you like, is there anything I didn't ask or anything else you want to talk about or say that that didn't come up that might benefit people today?
Well,
Or wipe
I
away my
just wanna
tears.
I wanna thank you for having, this platform. I looked into starting a podcast, and I was like, "Oh, this is not in the fairy realm to do so." So, I really appreciate the work that you do,
Mm,
because this is a lot of work, and you have a beautiful platform, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for having me today and
mm,
sharing me with your crew, your listeners, and your tribe.
yeah. Oh, my pleasure. This is just such a great conversation and
Well,
I
we'll continue it. We'll
yeah.
continue it, and I'll give you a Healy session so you can see how you feel.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely use some energetic help. That's for sure. With some of the things that are going on in my life. Um,
Oh, I'm
so
excited.
yeah. Yeah, and I hope anybody listening will go and find Rae and meet her and see if she might be able to help too, because she is something something to that just doesn't come along every day, somebody like you with your gifts and your tools and your knowledge and your servant uh heart that wants to really help people in the ways that you do from the fairy realm. I mean, it's not every day you meet somebody like that, that's for sure. So,
Well, the more that you become healthier and take care of yourself, the more you have to give. And I think people start out the wrong way. They're just giving, and they haven't charged their own battery, and they haven't gotten what they need.
depleting
And
themselves by giving. Yeah.
yeah, so I love to do that. Charge
Mm,
your own battery first.
mhm. Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. And, it's just been a pleasure. Do you have a closing thought you want to leave people with? A little something, a little takeaway they can walk away with?
We are cosmic conscious creators, and we are here to create in this realm. And how we do that is through our thoughts, our words, and our feelings. So, the more awareness you have around that, it's the good news and the bad news. Everything in your life, you have created the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when you see the good, oh, I created that. It's not just, oh, my parents gave me that or I lucked into that. You've created that with your thoughts, your feelings, and your words, actions. And when you see the bad, oh, I created that. I don't want to feel like I created that. Well, that's the good news too, because you did, and you can change it.
Mm, I love that. Mm, that's a great ending thought. So hopefully everybody will take that into consideration and live by those words. And again, thank you so much, Rae, for
Be in
being.
touch when you need a reminder.
Yeah, reach out to Rae when you need a reminder, you need an energetic uh tweak. I know I'm going to. And just yeah, thanks for listening today and we will see you guys in the next episode. Thanks again, Rae, for being here.
Thank you, Amy. Lots of love. We'll talk soon.